2 roasting news this week, so
Now that
I'm
we
not a lot
have
better on
that
mine.
change,
Oh, yeah.
change really. I
But
see
I
more of them.
put up
I do. I come downtown.
9 dozen of corn, so I figured
I
I'd
can
do
usually
2.
see them at places spending money.
Anamosa City Council, City Hall Council Chambers. 1.0 roll call.
Crump,
Here.
K. Smith,
Here,
Lockhart,
Here.
Broadsmith,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Weimer,
Here.
2.0 pledge of
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3.0, motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting, July 22nd, 2019, regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
First by Rich, second by Betty. First by Rod, second by Betty. Any corrections or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 4.0 public hearings. 4.1 public hearing on proposal to vacate and convey the north 100 feet of alley in block 2 of Scott and Skinner addition to Strawberry Hill. And I'll open the public hearing. Any comments?
I haven't received any comment on this. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
First by Cody to close public hearing, second by Rich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 old business. 6.1 second reading of ordinance amending chapter 55 of the city code, animal protection and control to discontinue dog license and permit microchip identification in lieu of collar and vaccination tags.
So moved.
First by Kay,
Second.
second by Betty.
I have taken a couple inquiries, and I just want to make sure for clarification for the public that the licenses will go away, correct?
Correct.
We will not be issuing any further license.
We won't be issuing licenses or tags, so the tags described in the ordinance are tags that would be either bought on your own or bought from your vet. But, yeah, we would
Okay.
get out of that business. We would just require that the dogs still be, I mean, there's still a requirement for them to have rabies vaccination, but no license.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, the civil penalty is going to be the sliding scale. It's not in the resolution, but that's what we stated the last meeting.
Correct.
Should that be spelled out in there?
I would like to see it within the resolution for the next meeting, so it's part of the final one.
Was that part of the discussion we had before, that we wanted to see what the fines would be?
Well, the discussion was what it was gonna be, and we settled on the sliding scale that we already had in place, which will need to be put in there at least for the final, should be in there for the
For
final
final.
reading.
So you can get that done.
Yep.
Okay. That's a roll vote.
K. Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Broadsmith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
So we won't go with the possible waiver in the third. 7.0 new business. 7.1 first reading of ordinance vacating and conveying north 100 feet of .4 foot wide alley adjourning to the east, 150 East First Street, Anamosa, Iowa.
So moved.
Second.
First by Rich, second by John. And it's a roll vote also.
All of the neighbors were notified, weren't they? By letter?
I'm not sure that they were.
For the extension, they were not notified, going all the way through the block.
No.
Cause we did discuss trying to sell it all at one time.
Right, and that'd be my preference too. We haven't made contact trying to sell the rest of it. There was some discussion with the Thielens on what the situation there it was, because at least according to Beacon, the remainder is still public alley, but they were under the impression that the remainder had actually been sold off in the past. So I guess that was some digging that we had to look into to determine what was true.
Well, I guess in follow-up, I would certainly like to see us reach out to all the property owners that could be impacted by this sale. And at that time, also have the further discussion to see if they are interested in purchasing any of the remaining.
If there is any remaining.
If there is, yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Cause I think the adjoining property owner to this alley has already signed off, if I recall.
The
Questions?
Yeah, so
they were contacted by the Thielens.
Yeah, so they sent a letter or something,
I think they
if I recall.
yes.
Yeah.
That borders this actual parcel.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm talking-
yes.
As you get deeper into,
Right,
Has
as we
it-
get deeper, that evidently has not been addressed,
Right.
but the adjoining property owners that would be affected by this, they have been contacted.
correct, yeah. I just think it would be wise, it'd be to our advantage to try to capture this all at one time.
Well,
At least know that the other property owners that are downstream from this
well,
have no worries.
and that's what I thought we were going with, but
So it's kind of unfortunate, but I would prefer to table this.
Until all the property owners can be,
well,
alright.
Certainly for
let
2
me
weeks.
ask you before we do that, is there anything impending on this that may need to have this action completed? You know, are
I
they?
mean, not from the city's standpoint.
No, but from their standpoint.
From their standpoint, I don't know for sure. I know they had indicated, at least in the past, when their house was on the market, this was an issue for them. I don't know if they're currently trying to sell it or not.
So.
The other thing that played into it was I think they were planning a project that might affect their setbacks.
I don't wanna hold them up because
But-
we didn't do our part.
Right,
But it wouldn't be wise for us to move forward without making sure we have all the i's dotted and t's crossed.
Cause it's just it's further down the alley we're talking, right? When
Well-
it's not really even an alley, it's,
and let me just say this is the first reading. We still got 2 more to go, so if something crops up between now and next time, we can always stop the process, so. If it's to their benefit, instead of holding them up another several weeks, we can at least keep the process moving, and we can always stop it next reading or the 3rd reading.
We would still have to have a hearing on each owner wanting to purchase their portion of it, so.
Correct.
we would still have to set a date, but at least we would know if they wanted to buy it or not.
Yep.
Let's keep this one moving for these people, and let's contact the others and get the ball rolling if they're interested.
Well, I can understand wanting to move this ball forward. I don't have the urgency here in front of me, so I'm not discounting what is being said. I just would soon stick to some type of process or procedure and adhere to it.
So,
Did we have a motion?
yeah,
Got a motion and a second?
So we just need a vote.
alright. And it's a roll vote.
Mockbar,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
No,
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement.
Yes.
7.2, hiring of Iowa Economic Development Authority, IEDA, to perform downtown assessment.
So, this had kind of been proposed to me from a few community members who attended the downtown forum in Parkersburg. That was kind of a training session put on by the Iowa Economic Development Association. They had heard about it there and thought it would be a good idea for Anamosa to consider. I'd heard about this program last year at the downtown conference, and I think it is a good idea, and it ties into the other initiatives we're looking at. Put in kind of a brief summary of the program in the packet. Wish there was a little bit more detail online for you, but that's about as detailed as they get. I couldn't find anything else. I mean, short of getting one of their representatives here, but essentially they send in their professionals, their economic development professionals, and they evaluate the downtown strengths and weaknesses and develop both a presentation and a written report on their findings and suggestions for improvement at a cost of $2,500, which I think is probably a pretty good deal considering the information they're going to provide. I guess with that, are there any questions or discussion we want to have?
Have you contacted them yet, or this is just what you pulled off their webpage and presented?
The information I give you is pulled off their webpage. I haven't contacted them to indicate we're interested. I guess I thought it should get your feelings first.
And this is the same organization that they discussed in Parkersburg?
This is who
Okay.
hosted the Parkersburg
Mhm.
meeting, and this is one of the programs I think they discussed there. So,
If we've already done it with Manchester, do we have any paperwork that gave us feedback for when that exchange occurred?
we did the downtown exchange with Manchester, which is just citizens back and forth, not professionals.
Oh,
So it is a different program, but there was some paper report put together from that. I frankly wasn't very much to it. I guess that's my opinion. I can find that for you if you'd like, but
I think that was just Manchester citizens that came to Anamosa to shop and to evaluate their opinion of our community, and then there were Anamosa people that went to
Went to
Manchester and
Manchester.
did the same for them.
right. And maybe
So
I'm
it
wrong, but I
was
think
just-
only I don't know how many people from Anamosa went up there, but I think there was only 3 people from Manchester that came here, and I think they came all at the same time, so they had kind of one report. I mean, it wasn't very detailed. I mean, it gave us a little bit of insight from an outsider perspective, but
Group project.
not quite the same as level of as what this would be.
So is this something that we should have done prior to doing the grant program?
I think if you could go back and rewrite, the past 24 months, yes, but I don't think it's something that I would pump the brakes on one for to do now, if that makes sense.
Was there a, petition? Is this what the petition was for that went around? Casey, do you wanna?
This is,
Yep.
I'll just, I can take them hand down, and there are the signatures on it, on the back.
I think there's copies of the letter and then just the one copy of the signatures. So.
I can't get these apart. I've been fumble fingering the papers all day. And so this layout continues. Okay, these are the signatures that.
I'm gonna make a motion, we move forward on the, to perform the downtown assessment.
I'll second it.
First by Buddy, second by Kay to go ahead and do the perform the downtown assessment. Any further discussion?
Can you please let us know when it will be once you contact them?
Yes, I would anticipate in the spring, but
Oh,
I will let you know.
okay.
I'd like it sooner, but I think that's their earliest
Well,
availability.
Out of the individuals that traveled to Parkersburg, two are here. Obviously, from reading this memo that you put together, you find this to be very value added to the overall scheme of advancing the community. A simple answer. Would suffice to be right.
Especially
No,
you.
a lot of what we learned there, the head of the programs between the community grant, or the facade grant, the catalyst grant, all the different programs that the state has in effect to put to the downtown district. 3 to 4 of those guys come to do this assessment. It's not an intern, it's not a staffer, it's the people that are on the website in charge of the grants. So the one that's in charge of the facade grant, the one that's in charge of the catalyst grant, those are the people that are coming. They're gonna come for a couple days, is what they said. They spend a couple days here, go through, do the assessment like they've done multiple times, and then they will get to, they plan a meeting with the council to go over what they found, what their advice is. One of the biggest things that we took out of that day meeting was there's a lot of energy in the state level to help towns with their downtown, but one of the things that they really look for is they wanna see councils that are engaged in bettering their downtown. It's one of those deals that if they see you working, then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, let's help. They say if there's a disengaged, if the city's disengaged, they won't engage. So this is one of their, they kind of view this program, you know, they have way more costs than $2,500 in this, but they look at it as it's something that says, yeah, we're interested, we wanna talk to you guys, and you know, it's opening the door to, cause you're talking to the right people when these guys come to town. And then, that was a few weeks ago, but at that point, Jim said that they still had a couple options open here in September. So, it might be something they can get done yet if they haven't filled those spots up. But I think a lot of the good out of it came just from the recognition and starting that relationship with the people that you need to help move the process forward.
Thanks, Bryce.
Thanks, Bryce. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 7.3, resolution setting date for public hearing on urban renewal plan amendment.
The hearing would be on the September 9th?
9th.
Yeah, September 9th meeting is when the hearing would be.
I'll make a motion to
First by Cody,
set it for September 9th, City Hall, 6 PM.
Second.
second by Rich, and it's a roll vote.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Mopar,
Yes.
7.4, resolution amending personnel policy related to vacation leave.
So, in looking at comparison to other cities, it was pretty apparent that there's kind of, I think, two general directions that cities are with their leave policies in terms of the amount of leave given. And I guess as we sit today, we fall in the category that gives a significantly smaller amount of leave. And I guess this proposal is to try to make us more competitive, develop maybe a better morale by falling in line with that other category that is, I think, also more reflective of the general employment market, not just cities. Provided you with a comparison with other cities, as well as kind of the impact of how the proposal would impact us as an organization. There is a kind of substantial change, but the majority of that happens in those first few tiers of vacation leave. Although the schedule kind of shifted up by 40 hours of vacation in each tier, just based on the way the tenure of the current employees we have, there wouldn't there would only be one existing employee that would fall into the top tier, and I think 3 years from now there would only be 2 employees in that top tier, and it takes 7 years, assuming they were all continuously employed, to have 3 employees in that top tier. So I mean, we've got a pretty short tenure of staff, I guess, and I think this will hopefully help encourage the retention of some of our organizational knowledge, and yeah.
So moved.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Rich.
So we are gonna add, other than the restructuring, we're gonna add a 5-week vacation for employees that are in their 18th year.
That's what the resolution would do, yes.
What do they currently get?
So currently, employees, when they start, and again, this is all accrual, they don't get it in a lump sum, but they start accruing at a rate of 40 hours per year. Then after a year on the job, they start accruing at 80 hours per year. After 10 years on the job, they start accruing at 120 hours per year, and after 20 years, they start accruing 160 hours per year.
So we're gonna jump from a 3-week to a 5-week?
No.
I mean,
No.
for,
So the top tier right now is 160 hours.
Mhm.
And again, the reason I'm sticking with hours is because not all our employees work on a 40-hour week. But the top tier is 160 hours. The proposal top tier would be 200 hours. So
Okay.
it goes from, if you're working a 40-hour week, it'd go from 4 to 5 weeks
Mhm.
as the top tier.
Well, I'm probably not gonna score a whole lot of support with our city employees. My direction on this. They currently, the max would be 160 hours or 4 weeks. They receive 10 days, an additional 120 hours off with holidays.
Yep.
They can incur 144 more hours of sick time in a year.
Yeah.
On a 2,080-hour work week, that's 20% of the time off with pay.
I mean, while there is limited control on the sick leave, I can guarantee there's nobody abusing that and using all of the sick leave that they earn. That's just not the case. So
Didn't mention that there was any abuse, I'm just
Yeah.
talking
well, and-
total allotted time off in basically a calendar year.
Yeah, I'm just saying most employees aren't actually seeing that as time off. They're, with, so.
So you feel instead of maxing out at 4 weeks, if they max out at 5 weeks, that will increase morale?
I don't want to indicate this is a magic wand. I think it's one small positive step in the right direction. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other cities that I looked at their vacation policies on, and only 3 others did not have a top tier of 200 hours. And one, which again I'm not saying, one actually had a top tier of 240 hours. So I think this is moving us in line with the market. there, I mean, I don't think we're being outlandish.
Well, the flip side of that is I know people who have stayed at jobs without getting more pay because they didn't wanna lose their vacation. Like, they built it and, that time off to some people is more important than money.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm
There's
not
that-
trying to,
I mean, there's that side of it.
I'm not trying to take any time away from them. I find the first the first three tiers very favorable in the number of years to receive additional weeks vacation. I'm just not supportive of adding 5 weeks to the overall policy of vacation. I would encourage all employees to take the time off that's given them. 4 weeks could certainly be a cap.
Ready for the vote on this? Let's roll vote.
I
We-
kinda would like to hear more input from the rest of the council on their thoughts.
But as it stands, we have to vote on what's in front of us.
Well, I see what Rod's saying, you know, with that many hours and then either 10 or 11 holidays, personal days. You know, you're talking 7 weeks, you know, that's 5 and 2 more weeks is 7. If they get a week of comp, that's 8 weeks.
City, a company, you know, business can absorb 1 or 2 employees at 5 weeks.
But, you know, I can see that part
Bundle
too,
it all
that
together, that's,
it's getting quite a few hours, or short of personnel.
yeah, I'm sure I'm not scoring any points with
Points,
the city
no.
employees right now.
But I can see your point too, Rod, that's,
Did you have any input, Kate?
No, I don't think so, thank you.
Rich?
For the number of employees that are gonna reach that 5th week of vacation, I don't think it's gonna be a significant number.
Yeah. At this point, we can't retain anybody here, so.
I mean,
let's
whatever we
be
can
real
do to
honest,
try
that's
to retain
unachievable,
is,
18 years. We have people leaving that don't even have jobs to go to.
All right, it's a roll vote.
Schaefer,
You bet, yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
yes.
K-Smith,
Yes.
Markart,
yes,
and Rod Smith.
No,
7.5, resolution approving the hiring and setting salary of emergency services administrative assistant.
Move to approve.
First by Betty.
second,
Second by John. And it's a roll vote.
Well,
So-
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Rich.
Is this person still going to also act as secretary to the fire department?
Yes.
They will?
My understanding is they'll perform the same functions as in the past.
Okay, what about maintaining the records? Cause I was told Jamie had to take the records out of the police station for the fire department.
Unless there's, you know, as far as I know, they would be performing those same duties.
Jeremiah?
what records?
Well, there were some fire department records or something she said she had to take home, and then she's storing them at home now?
Fire Service Board?
Chose to.
She chose to?
Chose to as the key
Okay.
word.
But the person who will be doing this will be still acting as the fire department secretary?
Yes, they're performing, limited functions administratively for the fire chief. And we can store those files at the police department or wherever is needed.
Okay,
We can also allot for time periods throughout the week if that person needs to visit the fire department physically and do
Okay.
anything at that place. The biggest concern is we just wanna make sure that somebody's there to answer phones and open doors, handle walk-in traffic, when that's necessary between business hours.
okay.
So as we talk about morale, the last person left at $17.48 after 9 years. The next employee gets to walk in at $17.78 with no experience. How does that speak to the rest of our employees and the value that they hold here?
So, and again, I can't speak a whole lot to the past, but there was an increase as of July 1 for this position, so I don't think, I'm not sure what number you stated, 1740.
Right.
That wasn't the pay at July 1, but
What was the badge July?
1787. And part of,
So they would have received a raise at July 1.
yes. But I mean, to address really your larger point, which is that it's very similar to the prior person leaving. I mean, I think that's my goal, is to try to get all the wages to a more competitive area, so that we can retain people and not just worry about it when they leave. So,
And at what point would this maybe increase? After the 90-day probation,
so
180 days? When might this increase that it would be that 17, what'd you say, 85 or
87. But
87?
this position is subject to the union, and so, I mean, if that employee, I mean, I guess my expectation is it'll probably be bargained as part of that.
And just one more thing, and just a little thing, but at the bottom of it, where it says approval by mayor, it says this 12th day of July. Should be 12th day of August.
Yep.
The first spot above it does say the 12th.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah,
it
you're
doesn't
right.
say it down there.
No. Any further discussion? It's a roll vote.
Weimer,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Rod Smith,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
7.6, resolution setting temporary salary for utility billing clerk for added responsibility in absence of the deputy city clerk.
Move to approve.
First by Rich,
Second.
second by John. Any discussion? And it's a
What,
roll.
hold on, what type of duties is the billing clerk assuming that she didn't normally have?
She's definitely increased the amount of, I guess, calls and stuff that she's taking for one. She's helping, dropping deposits off at the bank, picking up some of the building permits, cemetery responsibilities.
So when we hire somebody to be the new deputy city clerk, then, the utility billing clerk will go back to her previous wage?
Correct.
Any further discussion? And it's a roll vote.
Hunt,
Yes.
Hill-Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Wadsmith,
Yes.
Schaefer,
No.
Weimer,
Yes.
7.7, request by Patrick Hesser to waive driveway regulation for property at 203 Main Street.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Hesser, and I understand that earlier this year, there was a new ordinance in place for driveways to be completely concreted, from the garage to the city street. I'm asking for a special exception because my driveway is approximately 425 feet long, and at the approach going from Cherry Street to the top of the hill where my house is at. Below it, there are no city sewer systems. There are no city utilities that would be affected if there was any washout by any concern from gravel. I think that's been the biggest concern over the years with city sewer systems. People putting gravel in their driveways, get big drains. I own the property on Elm Street for years, and I had the gravel issue all the time, and I know that the city sewer systems were just probably inundated with a lot of debris. But, where I'm currently proposing the driveway, I had Greg Carpenter up there to look at it, and he said, well, there isn't any storm drains, at the end of town. So the request that I'm asking is that I'm allowed to put an approach in from the city street, at least 30 to 40 feet up the hill, and then gravel to my house.
So say that again, the cement will be from the street 30 to 40 feet up, and then for the next 300 or 400 feet, it'll be gravel?
That is correct, yes. And I do have some photos, if you would like to take a look at it, to kind of see the topography of the area where the driveway would be, if that's necessary. Okay, so this is where, can you see that okay? So this is, right where that ATV is, going down here is the buffalo. So there are no storm drains at all. It kind of lays off and goes down into the buffalo out of that corner of that property that I own all the way up to the state property. So, yep. So So it's at the very southwest corner of the town. Yeah, and it's going downhill, so I don't know if you can see that okay.
Jacob, has Greg visited with you about this?
No, but I guess, so my perspective on this is, first,
So you're coming out where that side by side is.
I think
And we go straight downhill to the Buffalo. And it's a, there's a
we
big
should not
ditch there.
deviate from the ordinance. If we find ourselves questioning if we should deviate from the ordinance probably needs addressed and revisited, because, I mean, you make one exception and it's, I mean, everything's an exception now. I think, the other factor in this case is that the property in question has very close access to Vine Street. I can't tell you the exact amount of feet of driveway necessary to access Vine Street, but it's much more of a standard driveway length. And it's, you know, your preference to exit onto Cherry Street. And so, while I understand there's a substantial cost, that isn't something that's your only choice of egress, and so that's why, also adds to why I don't think there should be an exception here.
Well, and I was gonna question, your address is 203 Vine Street. So your address, your house, Vine Street is where you, and the whole back of it, Cherry Street, that's personal preference, correct?
So,
Cause I drove by and looked at it.
that's good. So the property that I have, and I know you guys looked at it this year, so the 3 outlots that I have, face Cherry Street. So Cherry Street is the widest portion, of that property, so it is the front of my property. So, just because it is close to Vine Street, I would have preference of having a Cherry Street address and having a Cherry Street entrance. Just due to the way my house sits in relationship to the property next to me, because the building actually sits 3 to 4 feet lower, so there is a drop down going in from the Vine Street into my property. So, and plus I want privacy.
Plus what? I'm sorry.
Privacy. The privacy from the property next door, and just privacy so that nobody can access my property from Vine Street, that I would have my own private access from Cherry Street.
But it's like, is Cherry Street kinda like your alley? Cause some houses have their back alley, they come into their garage that sits to the back. That's what you're saying, but your house, you actually,
So the legal frontage of the property was determined that it was Cherry Street. So when it was laid out by the city I think Jacob is the one that determined that Cherry Street was the frontage because it was the widest part of that lot.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure, I did not say that was the frontage.
I have a very good memory.
And, typically, it's the narrow portion that is considered the front,
Okay.
actually than the largest, but,
So, narrower, wider, facing the street. I guess the question is that, I know the rule was made for a specific reason. But unfortunately, this property doesn't fall kinda in that area where, you know, a concrete driveway is necessary to be 425 feet long. I realize the issue is with the city sewer systems. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing that I would do that would potentially cause any harm or damage to any city property or city sewers or city right of ways.
Well, I think the ordinance was made for other reasons too. Example is when snow removal and you're pushing snow off of gravel into grass, then you come in the spring and you mow, and all of a sudden you have rocks that are projectiling into neighboring cars and kids out in the yard. I mean, it's also a safety reason. There were more than one reason for the ordinance, I believe.
Sure, I understand.
Pat, early on in your presentation here, you talked about a newly proposed driveway. This entering off of Cherry.
Yes,
Do you have a current driveway?
yeah, I do have an access
Is it your
from
driveway?
Vine Street.
Your current driveway is off of Vine Street.
That is correct. So, understanding the property, my wife and I got divorced, we split the property. I ended up with half, she ended up with the other half. So, I am developing the property so that it's more usable for me. And trying to, this is part of the process of making it more my own property than so much being attached to Vine Street, because Vine Street is, it's really difficult to get up there. So, you know, moving like an RV in and out of there is very difficult. Moving anything, you know, bigger than like a fifth wheel camper with a pickup truck on, we just couldn't pull it into my driveway and turn around. So, you know, and one of the things is that, you know, I'm realistically, I've wanted a Cherry Street address since I started this project, and so.
So have you looked into changing your address to Cherry Street? Or do you think just by creating this, you now have a Cherry Street address?
No, I know that the request would have to be for a new address, that's correct. But I think that I have the opportunity to get a Cherry Street address because, it was indicated to me that the front of this particular property, the frontage was Cherry Street, and the setbacks that were required to make the property, to meet the setbacks, the designation that the front of Cherry Street was the front of the property, was the front yard.
Well, looking at the aerial, is that a city street that runs right directly in front of his house?
Vine Street,
Yes.
Vine Street is a city street. Now,
So-
there's another area that looks like a street, and that's property we just sold to him that.
Right, that's going down to Cherry.
Right,
But no matter what, the house is residing on Vine Street.
correct.
And his legal address is
Vine Street.
Mm-hmm. 203 Vine Street. That's
So
your residence.
in order for him to get a Cherry Street address, would we not have to vacate the street and directly in front of his house to get that accomplished, because he is on Vine Street?
I guess I honestly don't know, I mean, I think we could grant the request to give a Cherry Street address. I don't think there's, I mean, hard and fast rules there, but, I guess my again, feeling is I don't really care which street you access from, it's just that the ordinance should be upheld, and so, again, it's fine that you prefer to access from Cherry Street, but it still needs to be a paved driveway.
I, for one, think more ordinances need to be upheld.
So, to answer about the Vine Street, actually, Cedar Street used to go straight through there. So Cedar Street was vacated, so technically, I don't know what you call the end of that street, to be honest with you, because it was never classified as Vine or Cedar, so, it was vacated, the south side was vacated in approximately 1990, to the Hermsdorfers. And, and now I purchased the other side of it, so that street used to go all the way through, so I did get it, I had to get an address, because, in order to go through and follow the city rules and ordinances to have all the utilities met.
Pat, I think you can continue.
Oh,
Oh, I was looking past you.
oh, I'm sorry, no, I
Sorry.
thought you were.
No,
So you're probably know where I'm coming from on this, so I had to take the Vine Street address because that's, I had to, I had no choice at that point in time. Because I had to get the property settlement done, and I needed it in order to have a legal address to have residence of the property. Because everything else was in the works to get the property from the city, to make sure that everything wasn't a problem.
So you're saying the Vine Street address hasn't been attached to that house as long as the house has been there?
No, because originally it was a garage, so, and then it was separated from 201. 203 was the address that it was given. But, you know, buying the remainder of Cedar Street, gave me the ability to cross over down through in by the lot, so put a driveway into it. So it is a very long driveway, and I do understand the concerns about, the gravel. I'm just trying to, you know, save a little bit of money on this project. You know, I'm definitely gonna have, you know, concrete in front of my garage, absolutely. And I know the city's approach has to be concreted, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just that medium in between there is probably about $15,000 to $20,000 in additional cost of concrete.
Well, your property currently has accessibility, Pat.
Yes.
Ordinances are in place to keep the city upright.
Yep.
The recent transaction of the additional property you purchased from the city made this approach more viable to you.
That is correct.
Unfortunately, I don't see a hardship.
thanks, Pat. I don't think we're gonna probably waive your, to put in partial cement, the rest rock. These ordinances are ordinances.
Well, thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
presentation.
Yeah.
7.8, street closure noise permits. A, Anamosa Chamber of Commerce street dance beer garden on September 21st from noon to 11 p.m. South Blue Street from Main Street to Alley.
Move to approve.
First by Betty,
Second.
second by John. Any discussion?
I'm going to assume all the neighbors have been made aware.
This is the same thing that we approved in June, it's for the bike ride, we just had a letter delay, so it's all the same information. It didn't affect any neighbors, cause we're just going to the alley, so we didn't have to have that. last
Okay.
time.
Thanks, Leanna. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. B, Trista Keel and Megan Pape neighborhood block party on August 17th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Meadow Ridge Court from Council Street to end at cul-de-sac.
So moved.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Rich.
If I don't have to say anything, I won't, but I do have this printed out and marked off. It's a dead end, and we have approval from all our neighbors, so. you guys can- you guys see this?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. 7.9, beer and liquor license. A, renewal of Class B wine permit, Class C liquor license, outdoor service with Sunday sale privileges, American Lodge and Suites.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Rich, second by Kay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 7.10, review and approval
Thank you.
of current bills.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the bills with the exception of the $40,593 for to Housby heavy equipment. I'd like to have that as a separate item. Second.
First by Rich, second by John. To separate the one out.
Can I just get an explanation on the, $5,451 and change, supply from, is it Hatch Company? It would be 1, 2, 3, 4 up from the,
Chemicals?
skid steer, yeah. 4 up from the Volvo.
That'd be,
originals.
it'd be Hawkins, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Hawkins.
Oh, I'm
supplies.
sorry, did I
Yeah, I
cross over?
I think it's Hawkins.
Yeah, the supplies, that is the HMO chemical that our water plant uses to separate out the radium from the system. It's obviously a pretty expensive chemical, and they use quite a
Sure.
bit of it. But hydrogen manganese oxide, I believe, is the HMO chemical.
In the Jetco treatment improvements for $9,730. What actually was that?
That's the auto dialer, and related equipment at the wastewater plant, which essentially was outdated, non-functioning, and so there would be, either calls, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but either calls with no errors, so people would be getting up in the middle of the night for nothing, or errors that weren't getting called, those sorts of issues.
It wouldn't let us acknowledge it because of our new phones, and so it's outdated technology, we just upgraded.
Oh yeah, we talked about that at budget time, didn't we?
Mhm.
Okay. Page 2, second one, 5,337 from Reese Electric, system maintenance / repairs. Was it repairs or was it maintenance?
I think there were multiple invoices on that one. Yeah, in fact, I know there was some work done at the water plant. One was the, it was for, at least one of the items was for, like, I can't think of it's not a breaker, but essentially it was like to help protect their SCADA equipment, a surge protector. There was some work at the wastewater plant too.
We had a fan put in the control room, it was getting hot, and the motor on the fan burned up, so we had to replace it.
And I know there was one additional item, I think it was at the water plant, but I can't remember.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the explanations.
And then, so everybody caught this, Clifton Larson charged us $1,500 to discuss their proposal.
I think they charged us $1,100 to make the trip down here to attend the meeting. I think the other $400 was part of billing for the annual audit, just for clarification, but yes.
Okay, except for the one we did out. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. What about them? Outfleet heavy equipment.
So are you not wanting to approve the 40,500?
Well,
Or you have questions?
I've got several questions. We had talked about at budget time of before any new purchases in this new fiscal year, having a discussion about purchasing of equipment, which we never had. Dan came to the council last month, presented for the cameras, and you stated that's what you thought the council wanted to do, and then we get this. So why are we doing it for one and not everybody?
I guess I understood following budget. That was, I think, the never voted but consensus agreement that those larger vehicle items wanted to be reviewed by the council. I obviously should have been more clear in communicating that to the departments. I wasn't aware that it was purchased until it was.
So that department never communicated with you that they were gonna follow through?
Aside from the budget No,
Did we approve it in the budget?
it was
We-
listed in the budget.
We approved the dollar amount, but in our discussions, we stated we wanted to have a discussion about purchasing of equipment before the new fiscal year took place. That discussion never occurred. But and you agreed with this, just because it's in the budget doesn't mean it necessarily got purchased.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking.
I was just clarifying that when you said it was purchased, I'm like, and you didn't know, I'm like, did somebody just purchase something, or was it in a budget? That's why I was asking.
Yeah, it was in the
Okay,
budget,
so
but,
that was my reference,
yeah,
right?
the dollar amounts were there, but
Correct.
the okay wasn't there.
It's a lot of money.
Is this something we have to make sure we're really diligent on in the future then?
Well, at this stage, I'm not in a position that I wanna approve it.
Has it been delivered?
Seems like some departments understand it.
It'd been nice to see some comparisons, why this one was picked, this brand, you know, and the cost between Bobcat, I mean, I'm just throwing Bobcat out because that's what they had.
If I remember right, Greg had given a pretty detailed explanation why he was going with this certain
You know,
skid loader at
he just said the
budget time.
prices were close, that's,
But he didn't verify that he did go out and get comparative bids or anything.
I've never seen another bid.
I thought he had told us he had researched and this was,
I think he had, from what I understand, he had tested a couple other ones, whether or not he ever got quotes, I don't know.
At the time of budget, I know he had multiple quotes. Again, I understand that.
And I'm just going, you know, the other part of this is the amount of problems we've had with the Volvo inloader, why we jump back to a Volvo, and whether or not we're gonna potentially have the same problems, or more problems. Why we didn't look and go with something that might be a little bit more stable. And it would have been nice if we would have gotten information, we could have done some research on this piece of equipment to know how does it rate out? What are the capabilities of it?
see, I thought for some reason, Rich, he provided all that information to us at budget
I
time.
don't think
He,
so.
he did not
The
provide,
way it would
No.
extend, how he would utilize
well,
it.
he
for-
talked about that, but that's not giving me the background information to say, you know, did somebody rate this as a 1 because this happened? He did not give us the model number or anything of that, he just said, it'll get closer to dump into a truck.
That's it.
Oh, the street closure, okay.
So do we table this until the next meeting and have him? Well, I mean, what happens when it's already here and
Send it
do
back.
we give him a verbal warning and write him up?
Well,
Or I mean, like,
They could take it back.
Yeah. Well, is this with the treads rather than the,
Right, this is,
I
and the
mean, I really
treads,
don't care what it is. $40,000 and we didn't see 2 quotes on it. We asked for 2 bids for a lot less than
Yeah.
this,
you know,
or 3.
treads on concrete,
Is there a state bid
not
that we could have seen?
good as I remember.
do we see bids on all this stuff all the time? Or is this
We've never
because
had-
we?
we never have in the past, that's why we had the
We've asked.
discussion about having a discussion earlier
Right, and
about equipment purchase.
And I'm okay with that. I don't know that I feel I need to micromanage every department head on their purchases as much as I need to just be made aware of what we're getting and why. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't need to see 2 and 3 bids on every single thing that all, because
Well-
then are you gonna include the LCC and the police
Well,
department?
and that's
You know,
why.
it's gonna be, that's all we're gonna get done.
But
is
that's
going
why
over
we
their
wanted to
work.
that's why we stated to have a discussion
Right,
on the purchases, the process, so we could narrow it down, but we never had that discussion.
and I'm good with the department heads coming here and clarifying major purchases to the council. I'm good with that. But I don't know that I think that I need to review 3 bids and a state bid. I kinda think that's their job,
I wanna see it,
between them and Jacob. But to make us aware and to come in and discuss it with us, absolutely.
I don't think it hurts to, if they've got them in writing, what difference does it make if they put it in the packet? Cause once it's there, it doesn't take much to scan it in and put it in.
Yeah.
Would it be an option to have Greg in attendance in our next meeting to further discuss this before we do anything?
I mean, yeah, of course. I guess again, I understand where you guys are coming from. I think we probably shouldn't try to return it now and then have the discussion, but that's just my thought. I'm sure no matter what happens, we'll end up owing Houseby something for the hours on the machine and the wear on the machine, but
I don't think I necessarily think it needs returned as much as this is an issue that needs to be addressed so that we're not facing it again.
Well, I'm not sure our tax money was spent the wisest.
Wisest purchase,
Yeah.
because anything I read, and I think I looked quite a bit at last fall when this came up, and this was not a top recommended one to purchase.
That and being on tracks,
Tracks were a big
that
negative.
they will wear out faster than tires for where he's gonna be using it.
So we'll table that portion for 2 weeks when Greg can be here.
Well, a council member needs to table it then.
yeah, we should have a motion, I guess.
I make a motion, we table the skid steer purchase for the next council meeting.
First by Betty,
Second.
second by Kay, to table the skid steer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Alright, 2 weeks. 8.0 city administrators report.
Today was the closing date for the deputy clerk position, so I'll be reviewing those applications and setting up initial interviews, hopefully this week.
What is your process for filling that?
I guess my process was to probably do a couple rounds of interviews, myself and Beth, and then bring a recommendation to the council, unless the council would like to be involved in that final interview.
How many applicants did you have?
I don't have a solid tally for you at this time. There were several that came in today. I mean, I think we have a good number, and just, I maybe glanced past the resume when it came in. I think we have good options to indicate that, but I don't have an exact number on how many we received. Is that, I guess, was there any other discussion on that, process? Um, the phosphorus removal project at the wastewater plant is in the construction phase. I don't even think I've made it down there since they started digging, but they're going at it. I hear they moved a lot of land, so I have been in contact with multiple CPA firms, and there's at least 3 of them. I contacted more, but at least 3 of them I've met or had phone calls with, and they will be working on some sort of written proposal to provide by our next meeting based on the special audit that we've discussed in the past.
I'm not interested in paying anybody $1,100 to come talk to us about it, though.
Well, at this time,
Yeah.
nobody's planning to attend, even though some of them are. And I think part of the reason that the cost was so high was that employee traveled from Minnesota, but
Well, then we
Not our
requested
problem.
it.
We did request it, but if they were gonna charge that, they should have let us
Let
know
us
in
know.
advance.
Yeah, that's
Cause
a
we
little
could have done a
ridiculous.
phone conversation for that.
Oh, I agree, but of course they're gonna charge for everything. I mean, I'm not surprised, I guess, just,
none of them are planning to attend. I've asked for written proposals, and I guess if you want, I can try to see if anybody's available. You know, if we want a phone call, or save that for a next
Let's just
step
see what
after
their
reviewing them.
proposals
Yeah.
come in
Yeah, let's
first.
Let's
just
save
see.
that for the next step.
So
And,
I'll have at least 3, and maybe more for your review.
and it appears to me like Clifton doesn't want our business in the future, so we may wanna be looking at somebody else in the future.
I've moved on.
Yeah,
Um,
that's ridiculous.
and maybe one of these other firms would be worth considering. I don't know. Let's see. As requested, sent out an RFP for legal services received. Let's see. I think I received 3 or 4. Not every. I think I sent out 6 or 7. So I'll review those, send those out to you there, so you can review, and hopefully we can discuss at our next meeting what you guys want to do for next steps in terms of either. We could even do it. I mean, probably should do interviews for those, even so.
The fire department expansion's moving forward.
Yes, I know MMS is still working on the preliminary work. We met, Chief Shada, myself, and Randy Williams at the fire department. I wanna say it's been a couple weeks now, but, he had completed the topographical study. We each had a little bit of homework, and I was to look further into the wastewater infrastructure in the area, and Dan helped out on that. So there is accessible sewer to that corner of the property, and Chief Shade, I think, was following up kind of on the some other things with the building, but I know they're continuing to work on that project.
Does it appear it will get started in construction this fall, or will it be spring?
If I had to sit here, I would guess it's probably going to end up being spring, just because we still got to go through the bidding procedure, and I would be surprised somebody would be able to get started and finished before the end of the season, but I guess I'm trying to keep it moving as fast as we can. Continuing to work on the downtown revitalization grant. I've still got to draft up, I guess, the official documentation for the property owners that want to have their property assessed. So I'm working on that. Obviously, there's construction going on in the Meadow Ridge addition. So I think the wastewater infrastructure is almost complete, and
Yeah, sewer will be in this week.
they'll be starting on water infrastructure soon. So there's a lot of trucks out on that end of town. I think that's all I've got, unless there's questions.
9.0 Mayor and Council reports on boards and commissions.
Well, Dale and I went to landfill. One thing they're having problem is people not covering their trash when they're hauling out there. There's stuff blowing out in the ditches. They think some even come to the gate and then cover it and drive in. But said they can't afford to put a camera at the gate. Now, why you wouldn't cover it when you leave town, I don't know. But they said they're picking stuff along, especially, 130th Fawn Creek. They got the gravel roads and there's stuff blowing off in the ditches, and so they're trying some way to address that. I think they're going to put a notice in the paper, I think, didn't they say, Dale, to cover it better.
They've been losing some on the county blacktop there between Teddy's Barn Grill and the schoolhouse.
So
That stretch too.
that's the main thing they're working on there.
If people show up and they don't have it covered, do they just reject them and say you can't, or what do they do?
Well, yeah, they can, or they can fine them, I think, but that's what they're trying to maybe get something written up that they'd have more power to do something. Yeah, I think they can just reject it if it's not covered. But that's what they said. Some just stop at the gate, cover it. Why wouldn't you do it when you leave wherever you're at? That I don't.
Well, and if they reject it and tell them to turn around, then more
Then they're
blows
gonna
off
drive
and come back
off,
into
go
town.
Yeah, well, that's it. So, and the 911 meeting I went to, they're working on the P25 upgrades, the radios. They're gonna start with the law ops and EMS, and that's around 200,000. And then whenever they get the money, fire and mutual aid, is to get better coverage with the radio so there aren't dead spots in the county, that better coverage for all our emergency equipment. And then the smart 911, everybody's got smartphones, it was in the paper and on Channel 9, you can get that and an app on your phone and put in your personal address if you have problems, or your family member, how many, you call, and that'll show where you're at. So that should speed up, make it better for ambulance, fire, where it's at, and be able to get there. So that's all I've got.
Park and Rec Department, our board met this month. The analysis for our survey done on the pool, they completed the first phase of that. The second phase, they'll come back in and complete the second phase upon the pool closing for the season, where they'll be looking deeper into that infrastructure. They will provide a follow-up report, I would imagine, to City Hall, to the council, of what their findings were. The park, I guess, off of a block down from the library. Never truly had a name to it. So the park board is recommending to name it Stallion Creek Park. They have signage ready to go, to put up. Someone had mentioned that Beacon or someplace calls it the Banana Park because of the shape. So we certainly, I think, are getting an upgrade in just the name of it. Music in the park continues through the end of this month. That's on Thursday nights. They've had positive turnout. Weather has been favorable. So if the public is interested in something to do on Thursdays, venture over to the park over by the swimming pool and partake. As you're aware, Tyler Lang, the Parks Director, has left his position, taken one up in Quincy, Illinois. Tyler did the city well. It'd be tough shoes to fill, but between the board and Jacob, they're in the very initial search for that. I don't believe they've posted anything at this time. The two groups are still, in a sense, communicating their game plan for this.
I should have spoke on that, but we have posted that position, but I think we're still discussing the process of selection, which we'll be doing at a park meeting tomorrow.
Anybody else? Public with business with the council on items not on the agenda.
Tom Marion, property owner downtown. I don't know if you asked about any comments, Dale, and I just wanna make a comment on the loader thing. Have no idea who it is, what department, don't care. But Betty said, and I have to agree, well, she mentioned anyway, about either a verbal warning or a written warning, cause I hear a lot of warnings and stuff that get written up. I don't know the whole thing on this story. I don't, like I said, I don't know what department, don't care. But just kinda sitting here listening to you guys, it's kinda like something was done that shouldn't have been, but that's my take on it, so. Anyway, a couple other things, Betty, everybody knows that we can disagree. On the last meeting, you said, or you brought up, I don't know if it was your idea or whose idea, what it was, but the $250 application fee. I gotta tell you, I like that. Now, had I wished it was more? Of course I do, because everyone knows where I stand on this. I mean, I think it's gonna be maybe a pretty good vetting process to get started with, get some people out that shouldn't be there. Because one of my fears has always been that people are gonna use this city to get stuff and information on their building, and then they're gonna be, oh, thanks for the paperwork, bye-bye. Comment in, I think, somebody hit on this. Jacob, when someone does leave, do you guys do, maybe any of you guys do, you do exit interviews?
Yes.
Okay. Is it just you, or is it like the whole council?
So, and I guess I'll clarify, they should be done every time. If it's, usually it's the department head of that department. If it's a department head, normally it's just me doing those.
I would just like to suggest that maybe one, because boy, have we had a turnover. I think we've lost 3 policemen, and I don't know, I've had some conversation on Tyler, this guy, don't know his story, but I've had some conversation with some other, and I don't know how else there are with you guys, but boy, what I hear sometimes is pretty interesting. I would just like to suggest at the rate we're losing people, and for whatever reason they are, that maybe the council does get together, you do it as a council, you and the council, or for someone, I think there should be more in the think there should be an interview every time someone's leaving. You know, just, I don't know what the problems are. Well, I take that back. From what I've been told, I know some of the problems are, you know. So anyway, that's it. I'm done.
Thanks.
I know I surprised you, Dale.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Go to 11.0 closed session.
So moved.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Betty.
See you, chief. Don't hurt me.
Give me a heart attack, you're being short.
Just real quick, I do
Sure.
You'll recover.